Tonight, the man charged with murdering his travel companion in the Eyre Peninsula fronts a Port Augusta court. And free to explore once again. Port Lincoln welcomes the first cruise ship to sail into Boston Bay since early 2020.
From our 7 Spencer Gulf Studios, your nightly news with Madeline Kerr begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. The man accused of murdering Peter Hillier has fronted court today. The 64-year-old was found dead at a Venus Bay property in May. Reporter Daniel Pizarro was at Port Augusta Magistrates Court.
Adam Troy Bennett faced court today after being in custody for almost 6 months, accused of murdering his travel companion. The 43-year-old appeared via video link with his legal team asking the magistrate, David McLeod, for 4 weeks of negotiations and 8 weeks to answer the charge. The requests were granted and Mr Bennett is due to reappear in court on January 8, 2023. Mr Bennett claimed he was travelling with Mr Hillier across the Eyre Peninsula when the older man fell from the motorhome they were driving while under the influence of alcohol. Mr Bennett says he took the 64-year-old back to a property in Venus Bay before calling an ambulance the following day. But following a tip-off, police say Mr Hillier was allegedly murdered over 72 kilometres away at the Puchera Art Gallery. The time of death is yet to be confirmed. But police will allege Mr Hillier's injuries showed evidence of a, quote, vicious assault. Both men are from New South Wales and had been reported missing at the time of the incident. Mr Hillier was reported missing since May 25th, while Mr Bennett has been classed as a missing person since 2020. Maddie, as the investigation continues, police are still trying to determine a motive behind Mr Hillier's death. Back to you.
Daniel, thank you. The long-awaited return of cruise ships to the Eyre Peninsula is finally over, with the Pacific Explorer successfully docking in Port Lincoln's Boston Bay this morning. It's the first cruise ship the town has seen since the pandemic, more than 2.5 years ago.
Cruising its way into Boston Bay. At dawn's first light, the Pacific Explorer completed its maiden voyage into the shores of Port Lincoln, a welcoming sight for the township and a major milestone for the tourism industry.
Well, it's been a long time in coming. We've been 2.5 years without cruise ships. Obviously, we've been through the pandemic and we've waited an extra 7 weeks nearly, I think, for our cruise ship to arrive. And finally she's here and it's very exciting.
However, it hasn't been all smooth sailing. The wild weather over the past few days rocking the boat, but it didn't dampen the passengers' spirits.
It's been a lot of fun. Few rough seas.
It's been very fun.
Been great.
The first night was very windy and I didn't get any sleep.
Very excited because it's not raining. Every time we come here it rains, so we're really excited that it's not raining this morning.
On board the ship is 750 crew members hailing from over 37 countries. The vessel's officers are happy to be back with all hands on deck.
It's nothing less than fantastic. You can see the smiles on the crew members' faces, you can see the smiles on the guests' faces. It's just a great positive energy on board the ship and everyone's just glad to be back to work and everybody's glad to be back to doing what we do.
Pre-pandemic, cruise ships contributed $145 million to the state's visitor economy. This season hoping to be its best yet.
They actually spend a lot of money in retail. Even the crew get off the ships and spend money in supermarkets and other places like that. Obviously, passengers get off and go on tours around the region, so that's fantastic.
The township flooded with visitors this morning, seeing passengers partake in tours and stop at local businesses. The Pacific Explorer is one of 12 cruise ships set to dock in Port Lincoln this season, bringing thousands of passengers to the Eyre Peninsula. A further 104 cruise liners will visit the state by the end of April 2023. The 4-night Southern Getaway voyage will set off to Kangaroo Island tomorrow. All that is left for passengers now is to explore what the state has to offer.
We've got to hire a car, we're going to the national park.
Exploring Port Lincoln, basically.
Yeah.
We love Port Lincoln. We come here camping all the time, but a bit of a different experience coming in by boat, which is good.
They've still got lots of things happening on the ship, so we'll probably come back here and take the kids to karaoke night.
Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Meantime, just down the road at Port Lincoln Marina, police conducted compliance checks on a number of commercial fishing boats. Around 10 a.m. on Monday, October 31, Port Lincoln Police, with assistance from the Department of Primary Industries and Regions, found 3 people allegedly doing the wrong thing. 3 vessels were subjected to compliance checks. 1 person from each boat was reported for alleged drug-related matters. All 3 men are from Port Lincoln and range in age between 25 and 62. The 62-year-old will front court at a later date, with the 25-year-old and the 40-year-old may face charges pending the results of a forensic analysis. It was the race that stops the nation, and the Spencer Gulf was no exception. Thousands were glued to the TV or radio as the Melbourne Cup got underway.
It was the time for a late lunch, early knock-off, or chucking a sickie at Port Augusta's Pastoral Hotel as bets were made and predictions played. Many dressing up in their best outfits as the countdown to the race that stops the nation ended and the excitement built.
But Gold Trip is brave. They're going to go. Are they going to hang adversary? Gold Trip is going to win the Lexus Melbourne Cup. Gold Trip wins it.
As Gold Trip crossed the finish line, it was joy for some in Melbourne.
Phenomenal, you know. Everyone's had a lot to do with this horse. John Bunting, he's a great mate of mine, and he's had this horse in very good order all the way along. Great mate, great bloke.
And disappointment for others in Port Augusta. No luck at all, ladies?
No luck. Next year. I won it last year, but I didn't win it this year.
Despite the fun of the day, authorities are urging those with a gambling problem to seek help.
We've seen an increase in people asking to be barred themselves around Melbourne Cup because they are concerned that they can't control their gambling habits.
Daniel Pizarro, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
With more than 500 kilometres of continuous shared walking and cycling trails, Walk the York is something the Mid-North community is incredibly proud of, and soon a further 14 kilometres will be available. The Wallaroo to Moonta shared path is almost ready for its first steps. The contractor has commenced excavation works on the shared path from Ryan Street to Park Terrace in Wallaroo. Recent weather has made the completion a little bit difficult, with the sealing of some of the sections of the path to be scheduled for the warmer months. Once complete, the path will link the peninsula's 3 largest urban centres, Kadina, Moonta and Wallaroo. And Broken Hill has made it onto Australian Traveller's 50 top towns for 2022. The Silver City comes in at number 14 on the list, beating out places like Byron Bay, Launceston, Alice Springs and Kiama, with Broome taking out the top spot. The article points to the city's vibrant arts and culture scene, as well as outback road trips to Silverton and the Mundi Mundi Lookout. Since Australia has opened back up to travel again, Broken Hill has had a booming tourist season, with events such as the Broken Hill Festival and the Mundi Mundi Bash, bringing people in from far and wide. Still to come tonight, the Whyalla Vet urging locals to get their dogs vaccinated against a sometimes invisible illness. And stabilising and sealing underway in Moonta as part of some more major upgrades. Welcome back. A 52-year-old Whyalla man will front court next month after police charged him with alleged assault. Just after midnight on Saturday, October 29, officers were called to a hotel on Gowrie Avenue at Whyalla after reports came in of a disturbance. Police will allege a hotel patron assaulted a security guard. Patrols then tried to arrest the man, but say he was agitated and aggressive and used capsicum spray to subdue him. He was granted bail and his court date is set for December 20. It's sometimes an invisible disease, but it can be deadly if contracted by your 4-legged canine friend. It's called parvovirus, and one local Whyalla vet is urging all dog owners to ensure their pet is up to date with the latest preventatives.
A vaccination fee is a small price to pay to protect man's best friend. Local vets say Whyalla is currently seeing a spike in dogs presenting with parvovirus. The easily spread disease attacks the dog's intestinal tract and bone marrow, causing them to suffer from diarrhea and severe vomiting.
Parvo is spread by dog faeces, either direct contact with the faeces, but also it can be spread by, you pick it up on your shoe You take it home with you. So a lot of people are not aware of that.
Puppies and adolescent dogs are most at risk, especially if they're yet to be vaccinated. Animal welfare advocates say the fact that Whyalla continues to see large yearly flare-ups of parvovirus means that not enough people are taking the vaccination process seriously.
Every year, Whyalla has parvovirus outbreaks, and until the vaccination levels are raised, this will continue.
It's when the weather changes, it becomes a bit warmer, there's a little bit of moisture in the ground, we get an outbreak of parvo, and the reason is that people just don't vaccinate their dogs.
Dog owners are being advised that parvo can be invisible and can live on the surface of kennels, human skin or shared items. The advice for new dog owners is simple.
If you have an unvaccinated dog, don't take it out walking till it's had all its vaccination.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
South Australia's Little Cornwall is the site of major developments, ensuring the town can be enjoyed well into the future. The major upgrade to Bay Road has been in the works since 2019 and Stage 3 is currently underway. Contractors are now stabilising and sealing the remaining sections. The George Street stormwater upgrade hasn't stopped the hustle and bustle of the community, enjoying the surrounding cafes and shops. And contractors are currently working in Zone 2, saying works are going well despite some rock and groundwater being present. Once complete, each zone will help minimise flooding within Moontas CBD. Stay with us after the break. It's not just humans experiencing hay fever. How to tell if your pet has springtime allergies. And a Broken Hill radio station picks up yet another award for its Outback show. Welcome back. Moonta is home to some impressive sporting and historic locations, and Council wants to ensure these sites look their best and aren't affected by the weather, especially as we head into the warmer months. The idea of drought-proofing the Moonta Golf Club, Cricket Club and Football Club, as well as the cemetery, is something Council has been working on for a while now. A preliminary study has been completed, and soon Council will release a report on whether or not there is sufficient treated wastewater and rainwater to meet the irrigation levels. Now in the final month of spring, itchy eyes and runny noses are all too common, but people aren't the only ones suffering this time of year. The team at Petstock in Port Lincoln are reminding pet owners to check in on their companions as they too might be suffering from allergies.
Spring, a dreaded time for some, and the same goes for your pets. Allergies are always heightened during this period, with pollen, grass, dust and mould all common allergens that could target your four-legged friends.
Spring, obviously the weather warms up and there's more allergens around, so you may notice allergies in your pets. So they may get red itchy skin or watery eyes or smelly ears, stuff like that are all signs of allergies.
One of the most common playtime activities with pets is to throw a stick for them to retrieve it. However, this may pose as a threat to your dog's oral health.
People often will throw sticks for their dogs, thinking, yeah, a dog likes a stick, but there is a risk of them injuring themselves with sticks, so some quite nasty injuries can happen. So being aware there is a risk with sticks.
With the weather slowly warming up, pet owners should be aware of parasites living on grasses like fleas and ticks. Petstock is urging people to be proactive and intervene early.
The telltale signs of fleas and ticks are obviously itching, they can get red, irritated skin, they can lose fur, they can be licking at feet and paws too, lots of different signs.
If you notice your pet struggling with allergies this spring, Petstock recommends seeing your local vet straight away. Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
A Broken Hill community radio station has added another award to its trophy cabinet. 2Dry FM won Best New Program for its show Out in the Outback at the Community Radio Awards in Cairns on Saturday, with board members and other staff at the station watching the win via a live stream. The station is no stranger to accolades, winning at the South Australian Community Broadcasting Association in previous years, but it's the first time the station has won at a national level. Unfortunately, it was a tough road trip for Broken Hill's representative cricket sides over the weekend. The home ground advantage helped Redcliffs in both the A grade and the B grade. Match practice also proved a factor, with the first 2 rounds of cricket washed out in Broken Hill. Sheldon Hall and Lawrence Hebbard were the stars in a losing side. The B grade games were more competitive, however Redcliffs were the victors. Tom Burke, Colby Stenhouse and Adam Perry the best B graders. Stay with us after the break. Petrol price pain still being felt in the regions. And don't go anywhere, we'll have the weather details with John Hunt. Welcome back. With the ever-increasing cost of living, a trip to the Bowser is something many of us dread. Let's take a look at what you can expect to pay regionally and in metropolitan areas. Taking a look at unleaded prices first, last week we saw a mixture of arrows, and this week it's much the same, with some slight changes. The lowest price can be seen at Kadina and Port Pirie at $1.82 and $1.83. Not much change from last week. Let's hope these prices stay consistent. Port Lincoln has stayed the same at $1.85, as has Whyalla at $1.87 and Port Augusta at $1.86, increasing by a slight 1 cent compared to last week. At the higher end of the scale is Broken Hill as per usual. And there's no good news this week, as prices have increased to $1.94. Adelaide prices skyrocketed to $2.14 last week. There is relief this week, with prices dropping by 45 cents, now sitting at $1.69. Now to diesel, and for many of our locations, prices have stayed stagnant. The price of diesel at Port Lincoln has stayed the same at $2.39, Kadina at $2.34 and Adelaide at $2.29. The biggest increase can be seen at Broken Hill, now sitting at $2.44, the highest diesel price this week. Whyalla, Port Pirie and Port Augusta have seen slight increases, with all prices staying around the $2.30 mark. At least we're not seeing as many red arrows as last week. Lastly, we look at the prices of autogas, and they've stayed the same at all locations except for Adelaide, where the price has slightly increased by 4 cents, now sitting at 99 cents. The lowest price out of all the locations. Regionally, the lowest prices can be found at Port Pirie at $1.08 and Broken Hill at $1.10. Prices are slightly higher at Kadina and Whyalla. Once again, the highest price can be seen at Port Lincoln, with the price staying at $1.69. That's all for Fuel Watch this week. We'll update you again in a week's time. But it's time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather with John Hunt. John, a woolly blast over the past few days, but we'll soon have a taste of summer.
That's right, Maddie. We'll have our first proper taste in just a few days' time. I'll tell you exactly when in just a moment. But first, let's take a look at some of today's temperatures. Port Augusta topped 19 degrees today, around 12 degrees warmer than the overnight low. 16 degrees was the top temp in Whyalla. Broken Hill reached 16 degrees this afternoon after an overnight low of just 5. Looking more broadly at today's weather map, 20 degrees up north in Coober Pedy, 19 in Woodner. Port Pirie reached 18 degrees, 17 in Port Lincoln and Kadina. Taking a look at the satellite image now, and a southwesterly airstream over SA will gradually ease by tomorrow. A high pressure ridge will move across from the west later in the week, then move to the east over the weekend, and winds will tend warmer northerly. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. South to southwesterly winds 10 to 20 knots, turning southeasterly during the afternoon and evening. Seas around 1 metre. South to southwesterly swell around 1 metre, increasing to 2 metres south of Cowell to Wallaroo. Partly cloudy in Port Lincoln tomorrow between 9 and 18 degrees. Possible shower in Cleve 17. Partly cloudy conditions around Woodner 21. A shower or two in 19 in Whyalla. Possible showers around Port Augusta. Down to 10 degrees tonight, 20 tomorrow. Partly cloudy in 19 in Kadina. Port Pirie, a shower or two in 20 degrees on Thursday. Between 7 and 16 degrees in Clare. Some light winds around Broken Hill 18 degrees. Taking a look further through the week week now, and starting with Friday's forecast. Sunny in Coober Pedy, 26 degrees. Partly cloudy, 24 degrees in both Woodna and Whyalla. 23 in Port Pirie, Port Lincoln and Broken Hill. And Adelaide will finish the working week with a high of 20 degrees. Moving on to Saturday's outlook, 30 degrees and sunny in the Opal capital. 29 in Woodna, partly cloudy. 27 in Port Augusta and Port Pirie. Sunny and 26 in Whyalla. 25 in Port Lincoln. And finally Sunday, and this is where things start to heat back up. Blue skies in the towns closest to the water. Sunny and 31 in Port Augusta. 20 degrees in Port Pirie. 29 in Whyalla. Partly cloudy and 27 in Broken Hill. And 26 in Port Lincoln. And that's all the weather from me for tonight. I'll see you a little later with an update. It's back to you, Maddie.
Thanks for that, John. And that's the local news this Wednesday. I'm Madeline Kerr. From all of us here, thanks for joining us. I'll have updates a little later. But until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.